Welcome to Roundtable. I'm your host, Ken Duke, and for the next hour or so, we're going to be talking all things NPFL Championship because it's that time of year. The NPFL Championship in 2026 is going to be on Lewis Smith Lake out of Cullman, Alabama, and that is a legendary fishery, folks. I want to talk about that because when I think of a bass tournament, I really think of three major components to any bass tournament. One of the components is the fishery. Another component is the field of anglers, and the final component are the conditions. And today, to kick off this episode of Roundtable, I want to talk about with the fishery here. I want to talk about Lewis Smith Lake, and then we'll bring on our guests because we've got some great ones. But Lewis, I don't throw around the word legendary very easily or very lightly, but Lewis Smith Lake in Alabama is truly a legendary bass fishery. And I don't know how to tell you how legendary it is without getting into a lot of that history. It was impounded in 1961, so the lake is now 64 years old as we head into this NPFL championship. It covers 21,200 acres, which is not a giant lake, especially for major bass tournaments. But as you can see, if you're watching here on YouTube, as you can see, it has got a ton of shoreline. In fact, there's over 500 miles of shoreline on Lewis Smith Lake, tons of creeks, rivers, lots of places where anglers can get away from each other if that's what they want to do. And of course, there are only 42 anglers in this tournament. So Lewis Smith Lake at 21,000 plus acres is going to fish big, I think. Smith Lake is also very deep. It's the deepest lake in Alabama. The average depth on Lewis Smith Lake is between 65 and 70 feet. And the deepest part of the lake is 264 feet. At full pool, the lake is 510 feet above mean sea level. Right now, as I'm doing this episode of Roundtable, it's about 5.5 feet low. And there's some rain predicted here in the very near future, so it may come up just a bit. This lake was built back in the early 1960s for hydroelectric power, flood control, recreation, and even to supply some drinking water to the area. I always am fascinated by the names of lakes, and the name of this lake is kind of not surprising if you've dug into a few names of lakes around the country. This is Lewis Smith Lake, and Lewis Smith was president of Alabama Power from 1952 to 1957. And that's how a lot of these lakes got named. They were named for whoever was president of the electric authority when it was built. They were often the driving force behind getting it done. And so a lot of these lakes bear their name, especially in Alabama. But Lewis Smith was president of Alabama Power in the 50s. He did not live to see this lake open up in 1961. The lake, of course, is owned by the Alabama Power Company. And it's legendary for a lot of reasons. There are just really a couple of species of bass in there that we need to be concerned about for tournament purposes. There are largemouths and there are spots. And for this tournament, of course, there's a 5 bass limit in NPFL competition. And the minimum size on Lewis Smith Lake is 15 inches for our tournament purposes. There's actually a slot limit on the lake, so you can't keep a bass between 13 and 15 inches. NPFL is going to get around that issue by just saying, hey, 15 inches is the size limit here. Forage, you got your usual crawfish, you got your usual panfish, you got some threadfin shad, you got some minnows, you got some terrestrial things that fall in the water and get eaten. But a big component of this lake, with regard to the fishing, regard to the patterns, with regard to what these bass are eating, especially the bigger bass, is blueback herring. And what we're going to find out in conversations with our guests here on Roundtable is blueback herring are a very big deal here. It's a very important part of that forage base, and it's going to be a big player in terms of bait selection and where these fish are likely to be found during the tournament. Now, I want to get into the legend of Smith Lake, Alabama. And to do that, we have to discuss spotted bass. Now, spotted bass have obviously been around for a long time, but they weren't recognized initially. Spotted bass have been around forever, but they didn't get observed, they didn't get noticed until about 1819. 1819, more than 200 years ago, there's a French naturalist who was looking around the Ohio River Basin, and he discovered this fish that he thought was a little bit unusual, had these splotches on it. Um, he thought it was maybe different from the largemouth or the smallmouth that he had seen. But it wasn't until 1927, 99 years ago, that the species was actually formally scientifically identified and named by a American fisheries biologist named Carl Hubbs, who's a legend, probably arguably at least, the most important biologist in the world of bass fishing in American history. And he's the one who gave it its name initially, Micropterus punctulatus. And that was initially the classification for the spotted bass. Now it's broken down into several spotted bass species, but 23 different states recognize a smallmouth bass record. But for the initial history of the spotted bass, Alabama is the most important state, the most important genetics, and that'll actually last till today. The first spotted bass record, this is back in the days when Field and Stream was the principal record-keeping authority for spotted bass. But the first one was in January 1965. It was a 7-pounder caught out of Smith Lake on a crankbait by a 14-year-old kid. About a year later, different angler caught an 8, new world record. Then in 1968, 8.8 pounds, 2 ounces, caught on a Norman twitch bait. February 1972, another new record, 8 pounds, 10.5 ounces. This one caught on a jig with a pork trailer. And then in 1978, a 15-year-old young man named Philip Terry broke the record yet again, this time with an 8-pound, 15-ounce bass that he caught on a spinnerbait. And so that means it's 5 consecutive spotted bass world records taken out of Smith Lake. But what a lot of people may not have known at that point was that beginning in 1974, 4 years before that last world record coming out of Smith Lake, California started stocking Smith Lake spotted bass in some of its waters, including Lake Paris. And those fish, within a few years, actually within about a decade, started eclipsing all the Smith Lake spotted bass. So by 1984, there was a new world record coming out of California and Lake Paris. And since then, that 1978 world record has been eclipsed dozens and dozens of times. But it was still those Smith Lake genetics that did it. So Smith Lake is indelibly printed in the world of spotted bass. And to me, that is absolutely what makes Smith Lake legendary. With regard to tournament fishing, Smith Lake has a spotted record, no pun intended. It's a great fishery. We can expect the NPFL Championship anglers to go out there and catch limits every day. I expect to see tons of 5 bass limits. I think it's going to be the exception when an angler does not come to the scales with a 5 bass limit. But it's the guy who maybe can also tack on a better quality largemouth who's going to have the best chance of winning this tournament. There haven't been any NPFL tournaments on Smith Lake. And you know, that's one of the questions I plan on asking our guests this week on Roundtable is, can you win this tournament with 15 spotted bass? Or are you going to need a kicker largemouth once in a while? But we're going to get to that in just a moment when we bring on our guests. Stick with us. My first guest on Roundtable tonight is a legend in the sport. One of my favorite pros, a guy I've admired for a long time, had a lot of success on every circuit you can name. So it's no surprise that after his first year with the NPFL, this guy's already qualified for a championship. Please welcome Matt Herron. Matt, how are you, sir?
Doing great, Ken. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm dying to talk to you about this upcoming championship on Smith Lake in your home state of Alabama. First of all, how much experience do you have on Smith Lake?
You know, probably out of all the lakes in Alabama, I probably have the least amount of experience there as I do in really all the rest of them. But I've won tournaments there in the past, back in the old team tournament days and stuff. But it was, The totally different lake then. The blueback herring are now in the equation, and that's probably happened in the last 20 years. So it's really kind of, I mean, anytime bluebacks go into a lake, it really alters the way the fish behave.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I definitely want to get into because, of course, you're no stranger to herring lakes. You may not have fished Smith much since it became a herring lake, but that's something that you're very accustomed to.
Right.
Got to rattle off a few of your very impressive credentials, sir. First of all, 10 Bassmaster Classics, 6 Forest Wood Cups. You fished and had great success on all the tours. Last year was your first year with the NPFL. You had 6 top 50 finishes. You limited every single day of the season. And that had never been done until last year when a number of guys did it. But now you're getting ready to enter your second year with the NPFL and kicking it off with a championship. You're no stranger to championships. How is a championship different from a regular season tournament for Matt Herron?
Well, in a regular season tournament, you're worried about the end game, making these championships. And then the championship, I mean, you're literally trying to win. It's winner take all. And you know, a lot of times in multi-day tournaments, you have to fish, kind of survive that day into the next, and it's kind of a war of attrition. Make sure that you do your job, so at the end of the year you're there. Well, here, if you don't bust them, you're done. So but it's still a multi-day tournament. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard it. You've been around this sport a long, long time, and our the anglers will tell you real quick, you can't win it on the first day, but you can dang sure lose.
You can dang sure lose it.
So
And I love that saying because I think it's basically true. You see a lot of guys take themselves out of the competition right out of the gate because maybe they thought it was going to take 20 pounds or something to be competitive. And lo and behold, it takes 13 to be competitive and they overshot their mark. Because you're so good at what you do, because you're a veteran, because you know Smith Lake reasonably well, though you haven't fished it a great deal recently, you must have an idea of what it's going to take to be competitive out there. And I don't want to get too specific. I don't want to give away your game plan, but when you get out on the water on day one, do you have a target weight you feel you need to hit?
yeah, I mean, his typically Smith Lake, you can go back and there's so many tournaments, great tournaments have been held here. There's a lot of history there and you can see a lot of weights from different events, whether it's team events or, FLW style, whatever they were. You kind of got to look at it the overall, and what you're looking at is averages. And it seems like that 2.5 to 3 pound average fish at Smith Lake is what you're going to need every day to keep yourself in the hunt. To win it, somebody's going to catch, a 5 or 6 or 7 pound. I mean, there's big largemouth there. There's big spots there.
Yeah.
But that'll be to keep yourself in the hunt. That 2.5 to 3 pound fish will keep you there, and then them one or two key bites, those 5 to 7s, that's going to probably separate you from the field.
Now, I don't want to age either of us, but you're the oldest guy in the competition at 63. I'm about 6 months older, 7 months older than you, Matt. So I consider you a young man. At 63, what about being a Bass Pro is harder? And what about being a Bass Pro is easier?
Well, literally, what's harder for me, and it's been this way the last couple of years, it isn't my health, it isn't my physical condition. Life caught up with me, and that life got in the way. As we age, uh, things happen, natural course of life, where parents, loved ones, they start aging, and uh, for years now, I've been able to run the country and my children have been old enough that they've been able to take care of themselves. But the decline of my parents, and I had to, last couple of years, it's been about staying home and being a son and taking care of parents, and life got in the way. But that's just the way it is, and wouldn't change it for the world. And I'm gonna spend every minute that I can taking care of. I got my dad left. I lost my mom last year, but no, it just, I guess, priorities change in life, and
Sure.
this season will pass, and hopefully, uh, I'll still have the burn. I hadn't really had the fire the last 6 months with the passing of my mom, and really didn't want to get in the boat or anything else. But the closer this tournament's got, the closer the season's got, and I'm itching to go. That old fire's starting to get going.
I'm glad to hear that. I've gone through the same family circumstances you're talking about, loss of parents and so forth. It's tough, and there's no really getting over it. I think time may dull the pain, but that's about all it can do. But you're such a great professional. You've been at it so long. You've had so much success. I often think and you've been to so many championships. Uh, but okay, let me ask you the flip side of that. What is easier at age 63 than maybe 20 years ago? Anything? Maybe just the mental
No,
preparation part.
there ain't nothing easier. There's nothing
Don't,
easier.
don't tell
And,
me that, man. I'm trying to come up with something to psych me up. What about the preparation part? Do you find it easier to prepare today than 20 years ago?
yeah, 20 years ago, I tried to do too much. As a young man, you got to learn that although the lake may present multiple options, at the end of the day, really, you got to fish to your strengths. Every angler that's going to be here is going to have their strengths, and you gotta do the best you can with what you got and try to maximize it. And that's easier with age. You understand what your limitations are.
Now, you didn't get to where you are, and you haven't had the success you've had by being a one trick pony by any means. But when I think of Matt Herron, I usually think of you with a flipping stick in your hand and picking apart shallow cover. You're a master at that. And I don't, but you can do it all. Now, you talk about fishing your strengths. What do you plan to do in that regard at Smith Lake in the championship?
You know, the big thing is I'm really adept at catching spotted bass.
Ah, okay. And that's
Alabama's
not,
really,
yeah. Yeah, that's not traditionally a flip and pitching pattern, is it?
no, no. But throughout my course of my career fishing here at home, we got so many spotted bass in the Coosa River, and all our river systems has got them. You had to learn that there's times and places where the spotted bass are going to be a major factor in these events. So I've had to, throughout my career, I've learned to adjust and fish different styles and techniques for them. One of the biggest things, Ken, a lot of people, I'm old and been around for seems like forever. But a lot of people don't remember. I showed up at 39. I showed up at 39 years old, so I've been at it 24 years, and this will be probably my 24th season,
Yeah.
and I've done pretty good for to show up as a 39-year-old, and I've been very very fortunate to do what I've done. But everybody thinks well, gosh, you've been around since you were 18 years old. No, that didn't happen when I was coming up. You didn't see 18-year-old pros. It just didn't
No, you
happen.
really didn't. There
No,
was
and the knowledge
there
that's
was
out
no
there
clear
now,
path.
and the technologies that are out there now, they've allowed guys that are 18 to 20 years old to compete at a level they never could. I never could. I didn't have. My gosh, I had six or seven issues of Bassmaster magazine and a handful of shows, Bassmaster TV shows that come on TNN. And I remember when Stanley Mitchell won the Bassmaster Classic in '81. I was a high school senior, and that's when it dawned on me that, man, that'd be pretty cool to do that. But it took me till I was 39 years old, 21 years later, to figure out that, hey, there's a way to make a living at this sport. So I've gone through about every high, low, valley, learning curve, and I'm an old guy, but I'm still digging and still loving.
Hey, that's what I say about me. I can't catch them like you can, but I enjoy what I do in the sport, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do it. Um, Now we talk about the spots, and obviously Smith Lake is the most legendary spotted bass lake in the country. I mean,
Right.
it produced 5 straight world records, and then the genetics from those fish were sent to California, and every record since then has come out of California from those same Smith Lake genetics. Uh,
Well,
and we know that,
what happened is that you took Alabama genetics, you took it to California, and you fed them kokanee,
yeah,
and you fed them trout. And
Yeah.
you change the food source with that genetic, and you've seen what was truly possible with them. I mean, they're a dynamic fish.
Yeah, Smith Lake still has the state record for spot at 8 pounds 15 ounces, but that thing has been almost eclipsed by 3 pounds now out in California
Mhm.
with those vitamin T, as they call them, the trout and so forth. But
Right.
now I'm sure that the tournament could be won with 15 spotted bass. But do you think it's more likely that the winner is going to go out there and try to target a largemouth kicker or two each day?
I think the largemouth will be the equation that wins the tournament. I
Okay.
think that those I think that those uh, in my formula, I'm looking at long range forecast right now, trying to dissect it the best I
Yeah.
can because we're in a big warming trend. It's 75 here today, and it's going to be 70 tomorrow and in the 60s. Well, then Antarctica shows up.
Yeah.
I
Big
mean, we're
cold
looking
front
at
coming.
highs for practice 40, 39, lows in the teens for 3 days, but then it's going to pop right back up in the 60s, warm with chances of rain. So largely, it's just going to depend on what mood these largemouth are in. I don't see largemouth being able to win the tournament. I don't. That's not going to happen. The conditions aren't there. But I think that they'll be. If is it Sunday, the last day when it's warm and raining. If the forecast is right, does that one or two 6 or 7 pounders show up that totally just alters the field?
Well, of course, the tournament's going to end on Saturday, but it will be warming
Yeah,
up
Saturday.
once competition starts, as you say. And it looks like that cold front, if it goes the way the weatherman says, that cold front's going to hit right about the time you guys start practice.
Yep.
And then you've got a day off on Wednesday, and it's going to start warming up again. It really just seems like the schedule is conspiring against having a practice where you can get dialed in.
Yeah, I mean, literally in practice, what you need to try to do is figure out watercolor, bait sources. Where the bait is, and have a starting point. Because I think the guy that goes into this thing on Thursday morning, that's committed and locked in to what he's going to do, is probably going to be the first guy to get his head cut off because it's going to change that fast. You better be flying by the seat of your pants. And when you put the trolling motor down, you better be willing to make changes because it's going to change by the hour from the first morning to the last afternoon.
I
I
love that
truly think it will.
observation. You and I have seen many times where on day one, the guy who ultimately wins the tournament, when he launched on day one, he had no idea he was even going to do
No
well.
idea.
No idea.
Yep.
I kind of get a kick out of those tournaments. As a competitor, though, are those kind of tournaments frustrating or are they kind of fun?
Well, as long as you understand that, as a younger guy, you wanted to be dialed in, locked in. You wanted to have, you want to be committed to what you were going to do. And in most cases, that was the kiss of death. And as an older guy, I've learned that, you constantly look into the crystal ball and you start evaluating conditions and circumstances and, what you think they're going to do. So when you start having to make those changes, they just flow. You were anticipating it and you went from there. And that's the way I think you're gonna have to fish Smith Lake. The guy that wins it, I mean, if he gets on if a guy goes up here and he gets on a bunch of spots in 35, 40 foot of water, those fish will probably stay. I mean, they're not gonna
Right.
move. They're committed down there. But if you get on fish in that 15 foot to zero, I think they're gonna have their bags packed and they're gonna be moving every day. And you're gonna have to adjust with them and change on the fly. So and that's the way I fish anyway. I normally I hadn't got a clue when I leave the boat launch. I kind of know where I want to start, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Well, I think that's an advantage for a guy like you who's got a ton of experience, who maybe doesn't have a lot of experience on Smith Lake recently, but there's a lot of lakes in Alabama that are a little bit like Smith,
Yeah.
and that you've got a ton of experience on. I like your chances, brother. I really do. Not to put pressure on you, but anybody listing pre-tournament favorites has got to have Matt Herron on that list. Now, you're going to have a little bit all kind of weather. what do you think would play into Matt Herron's hands coming into this tournament? What would be the ideal situation weather-wise?
I like the cloudy, rainy conditions, the frontal conditions, because I want to mix in some largemouth with what I'm doing, but I also want to, I want to catch some quality spots too. So it, I just don't want to fish like it's going to be on Sunday morning. It's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, Sunday morning will turn you against fishing. 40 degrees for a high and a 25-mile-an-hour north wind. No, there's a lot better things to do than this.
Yeah, and that'll be the first day of practice. That's what Matt's talking about. So, in
Right.
fact, the day most folks are watching this is the day that Matt may be very happy to put it on the trailer and call it a day.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you one quality good thing, the great thing about Smith Lake for these conditions. It's kind of in a canyon, steep banks and stuff.
Right.
So when all that wind gets to howling and it's that cold, you can get out of it. Thank God. Because if you were stuck into that wind, you just couldn't fish.
Yeah, there's so many arms and cuts and all there's got to be a way to get out of it. And it'll fish big, don't you think? Because there's so much shoreline.
It will, but there's only 42 of us. So the lake's gonna
Yeah.
spread out.
Yeah,
And but there's key areas. I mean, the key largemouth areas, they'll fish small. The spotted
gotcha.
bass water is endless. So,
Right.
but yeah, but 42 guys. I mean, there's a lot of lake.
All right. If you had to put a number on, and this is, I'm going to ask you an unfair question. Matt, you know the drill. Media guys like me, we only ask unfair questions. Because you don't know what the weather's going to be like yet. You hadn't had a chance to get out there and practice yet. But if I could give you 50 pounds right now, if Ken Duke had the authority to give Matt Herron 50 pounds, would you take it and sleep in? Or would you say, no, I better launch and go?
If you gave me 50 pounds, guaranteed right now, I'll sit at the ramp, drink coffee with you in the morning, and take my chances.
All right. What about 47?
You still got a really good chance. I think that, honestly speaking, 15 pounds a day is going to be really hard to average.
Okay.
I think we could get to that 45 to 50 pound range, but I think it's going to be a guy I'll catch. He may catch 17, 18 pounds one day, and then backing it up with 13 to 14 is going to be really good.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
but the variable in all this is if you drive through Alabama right now, we got a flower called a jonquil. They're blooming everywhere. It's the days are getting longer. It's the end of February. That sun's calling. It's been cold, and the only place a bass has to warm up in his world is to come to the sun. So that sun and this cold water is going to bring them shallow. The days getting longer. They know what's coming, and we're right there on that edge of turning it around to going into a full feed. We liable to hit this thing absolutely perfect, and it could be a really good time. So who knows? But I mean, I think it could be really good. But the fish to catch. We got a crazy slot too. I'm gonna have to wait till we talk to Brad and them, see whether we're gonna fish a 15-inch straight across the board. We're gonna be able to fit way and under. I don't
Yes.
know what that's gonna be.
15 straight across the board.
15 straight across the board.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. I fished an Elite Series tournament there a couple of years ago, and to catch an average 15-inch fish wasn't that hard. So we'll just have to see. But I think I don't know. It's just that 5 or 6 pound largemouth or that 5 or 6 pound spot. I mean, there's 6 pound, 7, 8 pound spotted bass in this lake. And when one of them big largemouth shows up or one of them big spots shows up, it's a game changer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It'll be hard to replicate though. I mean, a guy might get a 7-pounder one day, but he's probably not going to be able to do it again. Do you think?
Now, if he does, he's gonna win.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
If he does, he's gonna win.
Yeah, I like his chances. If you get two
Yeah.
7-pounders, my goodness, that's going to be awfully tough to beat. All right, Matt Herron, I asked you to play a little show and tell with us today.
Yep.
I asked you specifically, if you don't mind, if it's not giving up too much, maybe show us a bait that you're going to put into play, and you think it might be a key player in this tournament for you. What you got for us?
I'm gonna show you something. Everybody knows I'm a jig fisherman, no
Yeah,
doubt. That a brown jig or a black and blue jig, my signature series jig. I will throw in a bunch in this tournaments made by Dirty Jigs, no doubt about it. It's just my go-to. But what's really going to shock a lot of people is my son owns Tattoo Designs, and I haven't been able to incorporate the glide bait deal into the way I like to power fish. And we're right there on that window where you might see a big glide bait. Absolutely, whether it's the big one or the little snack. You'll liable to get to see some pretty cool fishing this weekend or during the classic at the NPFL. You'll liable to see some big swim bait, like mag draft fish or big, you know, plastic swim baits. You'll liable to see the glides. Uh, there's a lot of things. You may see a lot of finesse tactics, but this is going to be just a wide open gambit of what all is available and what might work. So it's going to offer everything. So it's going to be interesting as a fan, or even me, when I sit back and watch this thing when it's over, whether I want it or not, to sit back and look and see what all techniques played and all that stuff, because this is a true fisherman's league. It with the format, removing the technology, is still going to allow anglers to use knowledge and instinct to do their job, and it's not going to force everybody into having to do one thing. Where if that technology was involved, if you're not doing that one thing, you just can't compete.
yeah,
So
so
this
true.
going to be, from a fan standpoint, from the fisherman standpoint, it's going to be a really good time because it's going to be a fishing tournament.
And that's what I love about the one of the many things I love about the NPFL, Matt. Is it's going to be a fisherman's tournament, as you say. Nobody's going to be physically looking at them in a live way. Certainly, 360 down imaging, side imaging, all those things will play. They'll be important to everybody. And I love you. Thank you for showing your son Josh the Tattoo. That thing
Right.
has really taken off. It's got an amazing following. One of the most versatile big baits, glide baits on the market is made by Matt's son Josh, the Tattoo. Very impressive bait.
Yeah, if you like to catch big fish, it's the 7-inch Eon is my favorite, just because I can pick it up and it's the way it's weighted and stuff like that. I can go down the bank, throw it in the middle of a lay down, or I bomb it out off an end of a point or down a bluff wall. And it's a great search tool. And even if every cast you make is liable to be the fish for a lifetime eating. So when it's just a fun bait to throw, and it's done, I've incorporated it now the way I've always fished, because now used to where I just strictly lean on one bait or the other when at the end, I've got a quality limit of fish and I'm looking for that one kicker. It totally changed what I picked up for and went to hunting, because I know if he bites that big glide, he's the one I'm hunting.
There you go. Well, those are two, big fish baits you showed us. You showed us the jig.
Uh,
You show us the Tattoo there. Both those baits are known for catching big fish. If you put 5 in the boat with those, and I'm sure you will, you're going to have a healthy string.
Yeah, I'll have a healthy string. I'll have a chance. I'll have my spinning rods in the boat because it's a deep, clear spotted bass impoundment, and there's a lot of techniques that'll come into play. Uh, so this will be one of those tournaments, really, Ken, where normally I'm the guy you kind of laugh at when I go through boat check, because I got 4 or 5 rods out, and that's about it.
No, man.
I'll call it my. I'll have a Bill Lowen starter collection, or a starter kit going. That's mine and Bill's inside. I give him grief all the time because he may be nothing doing but flipping a black and blue jig, but he is not going out with 20 rods laid out on the deck. He just can't do it. He's ADD, and I give him grief about it. But I'll probably look a lot like Bill in his NPFL championship. I'll have the Bill Lowen starter kit going. I'll have them lined up everywhere, because who knows what we'll be doing. I may be throwing 6-pound line and a shaky head, or I'll be throwing a 9-inch Eon glide. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I get what you're saying, because because we've got this big weather front coming in, because you all have Wednesday off, because it starts to turn warm again after the off day.
Yep.
I don't know how anybody is going to go into day one of competition with a tremendous amount of confidence that they're on them.
No, I will give everybody one key to pay attention to.
All right, man, let's hear it.
Pay attention to the guy that starts off at the get-go with spotted bass on herring fish. This tournament's going to be a lot like when Jason won the last classic. On day 2 of that classic at Hartwell, I had the biggest bag of the tournament, and biggest bag of day 2, I think. Anyway, why they just didn't bite on day 1. Welcome to herring fishing.
Yeah.
But the whole deal was Jason caught the herring fish 2 days. He didn't the 3rd day. But whoever can figure out those herring fish bite right off the go before the sun gets over the trees. So that bite is going to be important in this tournament. And the guy that can get on those quality spots that are feeding on herring, he's going to start his day off with 2 or 3 fish. It's going to be them 3 to 4 pounders and spotted bass, and they're difference makers. It totally changes how you approach your day, and that you'll be able to tell. Well, I'm going to be looking at it because that's what I think is going to happen. But I think when you look back when this classic's over, you're going to find out whoever found the herring fish that started that first couple of hours off in the morning with those 2 or 3 quality bites, that set the tone for them to have a great finish.
I think that's a great analysis. Matt, I can't thank you enough for your time. You're a young guy in my book.
63 and going backwards.
Well, yeah, that's what I need to do. But thank you so much for your time, brother. I'm going to wish you luck, even though I know you don't need it. This tournament will not be over until Matt Herron weighs in. Folks, a great one. He'd be an amazing champion, Matt Herron. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Hey guys, Brad Fuller with the NPFL. So we're here at Cullman, Alabama for the NPFL Championship, and we found a really cool store that we want to show you guys what's inside. Let's go check it out.
My name is Jeff Young, and we're a Mary Carter store in Cullman, Alabama. My dad started this store in 1964. He was 24 years old. He started it as a paint franchise. It was a Mary Carter paint store. We had wall paint, floor finishes, and all the supplies that go along with it. He was always thinking ahead though, and soon he realized that, hey, paint won't carry us year-round, so he added fishing supplies in 1967, rifle and hunting gear in 1969. Some product lines came and went over the years, but the idea was always the same, that he needs to adapt to what the community needs. It's still a family-run business. Me and my 2 brothers, we are carrying on the tradition that my dad Raymond started, the passion of just serving the community, serving the customers, and living on his legacy that he started is really what drives me to get up every morning. That we're not just selling products, we're serving our neighbors. That mindset has carried us for over 6 decades, and we hope to be here another 6 decades. So you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Mary Carter Store, 104 4th Street Southeast, Cullman, Alabama. And if you're in the area, stop on by and say hi.
My guest is an absolute threat to win the 2026 NPFL Championship on Smith Lake in Alabama. He has fished every major circuit. He has qualified for 5 Bassmaster Classics, 6 Forest Wood Cups. He has some interesting claims to fame, and he is a real historian of our sport. I want everybody to welcome my friend, Todd Otten. Todd, thanks for joining us on Roundtable.
I appreciate you having me. I'll tell you, it's the last time I missed out on this, so I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we tried to get you on before, and I don't remember what happened, but something happened, and we didn't make it, didn't get there. But this time, I'm not going to let you get away because I tell you, man, one of the things I do in preparing for the NPFL Championship is take a look at the track record of different anglers on that body of water. And I think you might have the best resume of anybody in the field.
Yeah, like I say, I was telling you earlier that it's it was probably a couple weeks later in the year when I had that second place in the Open. And, of course, we could use Alabama rigs and, but no forward-facing sonar. So, those fish might still be setting up like that. And I hope so a little bit. And I caught all spots then, and David Kilgore, he won the tournament, and he caught all largemouth. So it was, and we was doing kind of the same thing, but different areas. And, it's just weird how that worked out.
Well, you mentioned second place. That was in a 2014 Open that was in March, so similar time of year. Yeah. But you also have a fourth place in May 2010. You have a sixth place in September 2017. What is it about Smith Lake that you like so much?
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of from the Carolinas, we fish a lot of docks. That would be the only thing because it's all clear water. And, we used to little stained water around here. And Smith Lake is one of the clearest, and it's a tough fishery for me. But there's a few things about Smith I learned a long time ago, like, if you go to one place and catch your fish, the next day you better be looking somewhere else a lot of times because those fish, they get depleted, and it makes it for a tough second or third day. And it's bit me many a times, and I'm still kind of hard-headed. I'm going to go back and maybe check it for a while anyway, but always ends up having to move it around and stuff,
Well, that going in though, and obviously it suits your style really well. And you talk about it. Yeah, it is super clear, super clean. It's also incredibly deep. The deepest part is 264 feet, and it averages 65 to 70 feet. And I know your home water is Lake Wiley, and Lake Wiley's deep, but ain't like that.
Yeah. Usually when I'm measuring the water depth, I'll stick my rod down in the water. If I can hit the bottom, I'm good. But yeah, Smith Lake, there's not too many places like that. And you do have to fish a little different there. And it depends if you're going to fish for spots or you're going to try to catch largemouth. The largemouth there is probably, if you can figure out something there, you got an edge for sure.
And you mentioned that David Kilgore, who is an incredible stick in Alabama and a guy who could fish the major tours. He's certainly got the talent, but he's got such a great business off the water. He's happy to keep it
like I said, you probably don't need the money.
Yeah, there you go. And I think he's also the tallest guy ever to fish a Bassmaster Classic. I believe David's like 6'9".
Yeah.
He's a big man.
I'm always looking up at him,
Yeah, but wonderful guy, incredible fisherman, and no disgrace finishing second to that guy, especially in Alabama. But you've done so well on Smith Lake, and you had a great rookie season with the NPFL. I shouldn't call you a rookie. You fished all the major tours, but you had a great debut season with the NPFL. 39th in AOY to just get you into the championship. You had 4 top 40 finishes, which is really strong, including a 19th place at Douglas Lake. Entering your second season with the NPFL in 2026, and no better way to start than notching a win in the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I had a rough start. The first 2 places we went, were kind of local to me. So, I think sometimes it messes you up a little bit and gets in your head, and you sometimes you learn too much about a place. And
would you rather start a tournament like let's say it's on your home lake of Lake Wiley? Would you rather start a tournament knowing 500 places you think there might be a fish, or knowing 5 places you think there might be a fish?
I think 5 places, because 500 drives me crazy sometimes, and I like to run and gun, and that'll get you in trouble a lot of times. If you can settle down in an area and fish, and you're better off, at least for that day anyway. And I've slowed down a lot than I used to be, run around, try to do everything. You just can't do everything anymore. And fish the way I like to fish and see where the cards lie, But Smith, it does seem to work out for me sometimes, and sometimes not. I had some tough tournaments there too. So it'll be a challenge, but we're going to have some good weather coming up to it and some tough weather during practice from what I hear. So, but tournament days, it's going to warm back up and things might be getting good by then.
We're recording this show before practice starts, which is not the way we've done Roundtable in the past. But right now, the weather is looking like it's going to turn cold. A cold front's going to blow in just as practice starts. Yeah. And then it's going to start warming up again just as the tournament starts.
Yeah, that's, that's better, I guess, than the tournament day, starting out super cold or something. Is usually the way it goes, or it's pouring down raining, which we may get rain. First day I was looking at, and at least we got that day off before, and things might kind of settle down a little bit. Starts warming up on Wednesday, I think. So that'll be good for us.
Do you think that's going to play to your style, Todd, or is that maybe not optimal for Todd Auten?
I don't think the fish really mind. It's all in your head a lot of times. And, I think if I'm comfortable, fishing and don't have to bear the cold and everything, I think I'll be better off. But it's, how it is. A lot of times when the weather changes, the fish change. And if I had it to do over, or, if I had the best weather, I would just want it to all to be the same, for that whole week. So
steady.
Yeah, just steady. So things wouldn't be changing drastically, so, but you never know what's going to work out. So I'm ready to go because I've been itching to fish a tournament this year for sure.
Oh, well, yeah, not just itching to fish a tournament, but you must have been pretty excited when it came out that the championship was going to be on Smith Lake. That had to make you smile, right?
Yeah, it did. And, I was I think I might have thought it was going to be in the fall in the beginning or something. I can't remember, but I was even more excited. But then when they said it was going to be close to that other tournament, that got me kind of excited and kind of hoping I could throw an A-rig though, but maybe Brad will let me.
Yeah, I look at these. We're talking about 3 top 6 finishes on major national trails. And you got them in May, March, and September. So there doesn't seem to be a time of year that's bad for you.
Well, I can remember one tournament I fished there, and I can't remember what organization or anything, but the water come up like 8 foot overnight. We had all this rain, and it flooded the parking lots and everything. And if you caught, I caught 3 fish and made a check. In 2 days. So, that's how tough it was. And I caught them on a jigging spoon of all things with the water coming up. And it really, if I was throwing a spoon, I was desperate.
There you go. Yeah. One of those tournaments where if you got a plastic worm with teeth marks on it, you're in the money.
Yeah. I mean, like that, I felt pretty lucky, then. So maybe I can get lucky again. Who knows?
Obviously, Smith Lake is top of mind right now, but one of the reasons I'm excited about having you on Roundtable is because you're just one of the most interesting people in the sport. And don't laugh. I'm deadly serious. You are. You come to the sport from so many different angles, and you've been so innovative. And yet, I don't think people have a real appreciation of Todd Auten. So let's in this short amount of time we got on Roundtable, I want to tell folks a little bit about you, and I want to play a little game of show and tell, which we'll get to in a moment. But one of the first things I want to talk about, because I don't think enough people know this, is that Todd Auten is the man who first put a soft plastic toad on a buzzbait, like a Zoom horny toad. You're the first guy to do that, and that has taken over buzzbait fishing, hasn't it?
Yeah, you can't keep things secret very long, for sure. Once your buddies start getting a little insight on it, and it just spreads like wildfire. But for a couple, I'd say a couple of months, maybe we had it to ourselves, but not much longer than that. It took off a lot better than I thought it would, and it was just a practical thing I come up with for throwing a buzzbait around docks, so I could skip it up under there and stuff. and I wouldn't have to throw a walking frog or anything. I just could cover more water and stuff. And, you know, I come up with it at my wife's family's pool, you know, just messing around one day. And I was like, man, that looks pretty good. I might have to try that. And went out the next day and just killed them on it. And I'd never seen it, and the fish shore hadn't never seen it. And it's, you know, it's been a good bait ever since. It's not as good as it used to be, but, you know, everybody's throwing it. So,
Hey, yeah, that's what you can see. Not as good as it used to be is pretty much you could say about any lure.
Anything. Yeah.
Anything. Now, when did you start doing that? What year was that?
Oh Lord, I don't even remember, but I mean, it's had to be what, 12 years ago at least.
12 years ago. Well,
Yeah.
it has really changed everything, and I think it's opened people's eyes to skipping a lot of baits other than just buzz baits.
Yeah.
But putting the toad on there was genius, sir. It casts super well. It skips, as you say.
Yep.
It allows you a lot of great varieties of. I mean, you've opened up the window on color options.
Yep.
It's and I don't think many people would have ever dreamed of doing that. So hats off to you, Todd Otten, because that was a real changer of a technique, and it works for everybody who's tried it, and it's just amazing.
I'm sure there's probably some old timers out there had it figured out a long time ago, and I never seen it. And you know, when I did it, I felt like I come up with it, but I've never seen nothing like it. And you know, I've seen other baits that's made with buzz baits on them that kind of resemble it, but just a little different. And I felt like, you know, fish hadn't seen it ever, so it worked out good.
You know, it couldn't have been done too much before that. You say old timers may have figured it out, but obviously a buzzbait might skip okay with a chunk on there, a good plastic chunk, but the horny toad did not come out until the early 2000s. So it wouldn't have been possible to do it before that on a practical level.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure, you know, they put big grubs on the back of them or whatever. But like you said, it wasn't real practical to skip it. And with that frog on there, it just made it so easy to skip. And it gets into places where other buzz baits don't get. And that's what I like about it.
Ingenious, sir. Ingenious. Now, weird question, but I know you're also a bait collector and you're into the history of it and all that. Did you save that first buzz bait that you put a toad on?
A funny story about that. Of course, you probably know Chris Baumgartner and Eric Weir. That we all used to fish team tournaments around here together.
Right.
And of course, you know, we went out when I tested the lure together, and I just wore them out with that bait. And they had a tournament the next day on Wiley, and I didn't. And
I know where this is going.
I said, well, here it is. You can borrow it, but bring it back in one piece. Well, they brought it back in two pieces. And they said they just caught so many fish on it and it broke it. And I didn't have another one just like it because that one had like a 1/4 ounce head, and most of the buzz baits I had 1/2 ounce. And, you know, then we were down there whittling the head down and all that stuff to try to make some more. And, you know, it worked out to where you could make one out of just about any buzz bait, you know, and it just gives a good profile of, you know, the frog and a little different presentation for it. And from there on, it just took off for me, you know, and I would try to hide it some, you know, wouldn't get it out. But now you see everybody's on their boats in the summertime, especially, they got it tied on. So,
oh yeah. What is your favorite weight for skipping if you know you're going to be fishing a lot of docks?
1/4 ounce, because the weight of the frog, you know, gives it a lot more weight. And if I go much heavier than that, it's really kind of harder to skip for me. So the 1/4 ounce, but I throw the bigger blade on it. Actually, I got one here if you want to see it.
Please, I'm gonna make your image bigger so people don't have to look.
But here it is, and I just slid the this is a Zoom horny toad, and just slid it over the bait. There's the head of it. And it's like an old lunker lure head. And this is kind of a thinner wire one. Sometimes I do for the spots and stuff, but that's it. And that's all you need, really. And I kind of crimped the rivet on the back to keep it so it'll squeak better, you know.
Yeah. Do you glue the horny toad onto the head a little bit, maybe?
Sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't. Luckily, I got a Zoom sponsorship, and I go through them pretty quick, and I keep them making them for sure.
Zoom products are reasonably priced. That's one of the things I always loved about Zoom.
That's right, and I just put a new one on there because they'll rip the tails off of it anyway before long, and
Sure.
I like the action of a new bait better than I do one that's been on there all day or something. Yeah.
How about colors? What are your go-to colors?
You know, white, I probably throw 90% of the time, but
Whoa.
you know, I throw black a lot, you know, when it's like a lot of shaded stuff up under cypress trees, stuff like that. And, you know, if I'm at Lake Norman where it's real clear too, sometimes I'll throw a green pumpkin, just a little bit muted from that black. And it seems to work real well there for that. So, I mean, the sky's the limit. I won a tournament one time on Norman on a pink one. If that tells you anything. And the only reason I did it was because I'd never seen a pink frog. And I was like, I dyed some, and we won that. It was a Toyota owners tournament. We won it. Me and guy Pat Turney fished it and won. And, you know, he was like, I ain't never seen a pink frog. And I said, well, maybe the fish hadn't either, and they eat it up that day for sure.
That's fantastic. What's your combo for that, Todd? Rod, reel, line? What do you like for when you know you're going to be skipping?
Well, I use a G Loomis. It's a 7-1 medium heavy rod. They're not even a sponsor of mine, but I think it's like a 464 or something, but it's medium heavy, 7-1. And I throw it to Tula, 6-3-1, or sometimes I throw the Shimano Corrado K. I'll throw that. And about all the time I throw it on 20-pound mono. Now.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I'm, want to bomb it out there, if I'm going down long stretches of banks where I can just bomb it, I'll put it on a little bit longer rod, and I'll sometimes throw it on braid.
Braid?
Yeah.
Do you like the mono because it just handles better than fluoro, or?
Yeah, and you try to skip that thing with braid on there, and you end up with a mess. You
get a backlash you can't get undone.
I mean,
I would.
The bait will actually grab the line, and it'll get tangled up. Most of the time. I mean, some guys probably a lot better at it than I am, but it's the braid is really less user friendly skipping for sure.
Well, I definitely understand that. I've gotten some backlashes in braid that I don't think anybody could get out. But another thing I love about Todd Otten, folks, is he appreciates the history of the sport. You're likely to run into Todd at an antique tackle show and stuff like that. Tell me about your collection. Do you have a focus, or are you there for baits you want to fish with?
Well, both. I mean, I go to these tackle shows and stuff, and a lot of times you're looking for stuff you like to fish with, and of course you'll buy up all the good colors and stuff you find of that. But other times I'm collecting mostly like wood crankbaits, the older ones, not the super old like the big O's and stuff, but probably the 70s, like the Willie. I got one right here I'll show you too. This is a Willie crankbait. It's made by Billy Easel, and it was made in South Carolina, around Spartanburg area. But this is just a moon glow color, and they come with different lips and stuff, but most of them say Willie on the bottom. I don't know if you can see
flat side bait there.
Yeah, he just writes Willie on the bottom in a Sharpie, so, and he does have some that's stamped, really. So,
Now, do you throw those, or are those just for the collection?
those go in the box, because these can be kind of costly. I mean, $50 to $100, and a lot. I tell you what, this guy, he was smart. He made a lot of these that sank, and a lot of people didn't get them back. So
Sure.
if you threw it and you didn't have a good plug knocker, you wasn't going to get it back. And the ones that sank were actually good fish catchers, I hear. So, but I never throw them much. I got a couple that I repainted and throw, but a lot of the baits nowadays are, tuned a lot better and everything to fish with. So those go back in the collection, and I can buy some other stuff that I don't mind losing if I have to, So
Now, I lived in South Carolina, Todd, for about 20 years. Went to high school there and stuff like that. No, I'm sorry, not 20 years. I lived in South Carolina for about 10 years.
okay.
And I always noticed there's this weird divide between North and South Carolina. If you're from North Carolina, you're born with a crankbait in your hand. And if you're from South Carolina, I don't know whether it's the water options, it seems like maybe there's quite a bit more dirty water, and you're as apt to throw a Carolina rig, which the full name, of course, as you know so well, was South Carolina rig.
Yeah.
Or you're going to throw a spinnerbait or maybe a crankbait, stuff like that. What is the difference? Or am I making too much of it?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I ever noticed that kind of difference, but like if I would go to Lake Hartwell or places like that,
On the
they
Georgia
were
line.
always fishing a lot deeper. So I felt like, they was throwing Carolina rigs and those underspins and stuff like that out there to get really deep. And, around here, especially Lake Wiley and High Rock Lake and all those, they had a lot of color, and they had, mostly a lot of flats, and you could throw shallow crankbaits a lot more. And maybe that's how it got going. I don't know, but the South Carolina lakes seemed like they were a lot deeper and clearer for me.
All right, I'm noticing your cap and Phoenix Boats.
Oh yeah,
wonderful company, not the boat company I'm accustomed to seeing you brandishing. Looks like you got a new relationship there.
Yeah, this year is going to be my first year running in the Phoenix, and I got a new 921 Elite X, and I tell you what, I've been with another boat company for 26 years, and it was just time for me to move on, and it worked out great that, I had this relationship with Gary Klaus, and, he allowed me to come over there and be part of the team, and they got a super team there at Phoenix, and they make an awesome boat, and I couldn't be happier that I made the move, and can't believe I didn't do this a long time ago, actually. It's just weird the way things worked out. Me and Gary's known each other since the PAA days, and I think I won Angler of the Year in 2011. He won it in 2012, so we had a little connection there, and that was back in some of the good old days too. And I had some good years back then, but this new Phoenix has really opened my eyes to a lot of different things. I have to learn how to drive it again. This thing's got a lot more speed than I'm used to.
Well, no better way to christen that boat tournament wise than to win the NPFL Championship on Smith Lake.
That would be a great start. I mean, this would be my first tournament in the boat, and I'm just hoping for, I could say a check, but everybody gets a check.
Everybody gets a check.
I'm hoping for a good check,
There you go. Well, the best check is first place. And given your track record there,
trying for first, and it's just me against the fish. So I'm just gonna go fish and see if I can figure something out. That's all we can do.
I have no doubt you're going to figure something out, Todd Otten. You always do, especially on Smith Lake. Not that you don't figure them out everywhere, but Smith Lake has been a pretty nice little reference there on your resume, and I'm looking for big things for you. One thing is for sure, I know that nobody in that 42 angler field is going to think this tournament is over until Todd Otten weighs in.
I hear that, but I don't know how much of my buzz frog is going to work there in 40 degree or 50 degree water. So
Might be a little chilly, but hey, you and I have both heard of tournaments being won with water temperatures in the lower 50s, and guys throwing a buzz bait. So
if the fish move up, they bite it. They don't care.
Yeah, and that's a bait that's going to get some quality bites.
Yep, for sure.
I hope that one. I'd love to see you win that tournament on a buzz bait. I just think that'd be a great story. But I'm rooting for you.
Breath to that one, but
well, I also know you got other lures, so you're gonna be okay no matter what it takes to win that tournament. But I am rooting for you, my friend. You're a great ambassador to the game, and you're a student of the game, and I really do value that. I wish that more people took it as seriously and embraced the history of it like you do. You're just a classic person in the sport of bass fishing, and I'm a big Todd Otten fan.
Well, I sure appreciate it.
All right, man, that's going to do it for this segment. But Todd, thank you so much for your time. Good luck on Smith Lake and Cullman, Alabama.
Thank you, sir.
That's going to do it for this edition of Roundtable. Thank you for joining us and for supporting the NPFL. Our championship on Lewis Smith Lake out of Cullman, Alabama begins Thursday, February 26th. The live weigh-ins start on Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Central Time, and that is where Big Al McCulloch is going to bring the boom. You don't want to miss that. Come on out to the weigh-in at Smith Lake Park in Cullman, Alabama. Meet the pros there. Get some autographs. Learn some stuff about bass fishing. It's a great time out there. Live coverage with Luke Duncan and Fat Cat Newton, and they're going to bring you all the action from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. Central. So check us out online, YouTube, NPF, National Professional Fishing League.com. Get it all there. My name is Ken Duke. I will be back tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Central, and I will catch you then.